In Virginia, 14-year-old George Washington was busy surveying fields for his family and neighbors. Even at this early age, Washington seemed to sense the special purpose God had for his life. By the time he was 20, Washington had filled numerous pages of his diary with some of the most beautiful prayers ever written, and he had made a practice of reading the first entry in his diary every Sunday morning. George Washington's mother taught her son to trust God and turn to him with every need. When Washington left home to begin a lifetime of service to God and country, she told him,
"Remember that God only is our sure trust. To him I commend you. My son, neglect not the duty of secret prayer."
In 1755, Washington was serving as a British officer on General Braddock's staff during the French and Indian War. He was just 23 years old, but he already enjoyed the confidence of his superiors and was often picked to lead dangerous assignments. One such assignment found him searching the frontier for John Fraser, a Scottish fur trapper loyal to the British, who had promised to provide supplies and information to the advancing British Army. But as the scouting party drew near to Fraser's home, they realized that something was very wrong. Knowing that the man he sought had no doubt been killed or kidnapped by the French militia or their allies, Washington still felt drawn to this little cabin in the woods. Once inside, he could tell instantly what had happened. A wilderness family had been attacked without warning. John Fraser and his wife were probably dead. What about the children? But once outside, Washington heard something. Following the sound, he saw a child's leg jutting out from a pile of firewood. Fraser had apparently just enough warning to hide the boy in the woodpile.
It's all right. Come on, boy. Put your head. Oh, there. It's all right.
You have another?
Then they discovered a second child, both of them nearly frozen from their night out of doors, but their shivering was more from terror than from the cold.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
There was nothing they could do now but to take them along. But even as they hurried back toward their own lines, Washington knew an army about to go on the attack was no place for two young boys. In this land, there were few roads, and often the shortest distance was a straight line through the woods. It was also potentially the most dangerous. At that moment, there was a sound of something moving in the woods.
We thought you were dead. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just stunned.
Washington had taken 2 bullets in the chest. The Indian scout had seen him stagger under the force of the impact, and yet, incredibly, he was not even seriously hurt. That was not the last time George Washington would be miraculously spared long before there was a United States, nor was it the last time he would be in the sights of that Indian chief.
Andrew! Joshua!
The Indian chief who took part in the battle remembered Washington 15 years later.
Our rifles were leveled for him. We could not miss. I had 17 fair fires at him. The Great Spirit protects that man and guides his destinies. He will become the chief of nations, and a people yet unborn will hail him as the founder of a mighty empire.
Washington was not shy about telling the world of his confidence in and reliance upon prayer. He was, in fact, known far and wide as the praying general. Examples of his willingness to go to his knees in prayer are found throughout Revolutionary War history. In one instance, the British had gathered the largest expeditionary force of the 18th century, and it was poised for an attack on New York. Under the command of General William Howe, 32,000 of England's best were on Staten Island preparing to put an end to the upstart rebellion. Washington's forces numbered barely 8,000. General Howe was committed to the task of wiping them out. His tactics were simple. Use 20,000 of his men to push the Americans back to the East River, making escape impossible. The river was nearly a mile wide and far too deep to cross. Washington and his men prayed for an answer. Without some providential help, the fledgling revolution would be crushed before it ever got started. Suddenly, for some inexplicable reason, General Howe decided to delay his advance by 2 days, giving Washington time to devise a bold plan. He would evacuate his troops at night across the East River. Under a full moon, small boats carried troops, artillery, horses, and equipment out of the reach of Howe's army. But by daybreak, there were still many regiments to be evacuated. The full light of the day would surely reveal their retreat, making them an easy target for Howe's soldiers. Major Benjamin Talmadge, an officer in Washington's army, left a record of what happened.
At this time, a very dense fog began to rise, and it seemed to settle in a peculiar manner over both encampments. I recollect this peculiar providential occurrence perfectly well, and so very dense was the atmosphere that I could scarcely discern a man at 6 yards.
The fog remained until the last boat departed. Then the fog lifted as quickly as it had come, leaving 20,000 shocked British redcoats on the shore. 8,000 men had escaped certain death without the loss of a single life. Time and again, Washington expressed complete confidence that his prayers and those of his men would carry them to victory. So much so that when he crossed the Delaware River in January 1777 and found the British already there and waiting for him, he was capable of performing one of the war's most incredible feats of bravery. He galloped out in front of the battle lines and on his great white horse situated himself squarely between the opposing armies. There he directed fire. Volley after volley left men on both sides dead or dying, but Washington, whose white horse made him a perfect target, remained untouched by the shower of bullets. The Americans rallied and won the battle. The Continental Congress called for a day of thanksgiving and prayer. Washington seemed to take it all in stride. Washington became the first president of the United States of America on April 30th, 1789. As he concluded the oath of office, he added the words, "So help me God," and leaned over and kissed the Bible. Every president since Washington has repeated this appeal to God, and with good reason. Barely 100 years into its existence, the United States would face its most demanding test. God must have known it was coming.